Today I'm going to teach you guys how to make one of my favorite Italian recipes. It's called pork sugo with gemelli. So we're going to turn the heat onto medium. Add some extra virgin olive oil, okay? You don't want to add a lot more than you think you're going to need. A true Italian tomato sauce is very rich with olive oil, okay? So really coat the bottom. Add some chopped onion. It's going to be finely chopped just like that. And finely chopped. Same thing, finely chopped. Now you want to hear it kind of sizzling, but you don't want to hear it sound like it's kind of searing or burning, so can you hear that? All right, you're going to want to add a 2-finger pinch of salt and then a 1-finger pinch of salt. Keep that heat on medium, stir it around a little. We want no browning here, guys, okay? Zero browning. So if it starts to brown, turn the heat off immediately, take it off the heat and let it cook for a couple minutes more. So there are lots of different tomatoes you can buy in the grocery store. Any Italian will tell you that only San Marzano tomatoes from Italy will do in a classic tomato sauce. I completely disagree. I think finding a really good organic tomato that's canned is really high quality and might even taste better in my opinion. So I prefer to use whole peeled tomatoes. These guys look just like that, okay? And I like using these in kind of my more rustic sauces. So what you're gonna wanna do is get it in a bowl and be careful because it'll splatter a little bit and just crush it by hand, okay? Now I like it really rustic like this. See how I'm doing that? Just kind of crush it like that. Okay guys, so there we have our hand crushed tomato ready to go in our sauce. So now we're gonna head back to the stove. Garlic is gonna be minced by hand. Chili flake you can omit if you don't like spice. I love it. Just kind of work that in there a little bit. And we're gonna let this cook for about 2 minutes longer. You're never gonna wanna add garlic the same time as the rest of your vegetables because the garlic burns a lot easier than these guys. So that's why we added a few minutes later. At this point, if you'd like, you can add some pepper as well. Fresh cracked, always, always. And sage, rosemary, and some thyme. And I'm going to give a good pinch of each of those in there. Sage, rosemary, and thyme. So I forgot to film it. We're going to add 1.5 cups of white wine, 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste, and go ahead and give that a good stir. Okay guys, now it's super important to note at this time that you never want to cook with a wine that you won't drink. Now why is that? Some people say that it's because it imparts a different flavor in the food, and if you don't like it when it's raw, you won't like it when it's cooked into your food. I think that's total crap, but I do know this. If you like it before you cook with it, you get to drink it while you're cooking with it. Cheers. So we're back at our stove. I have some pork sausage. It's ground with a little bit of fennel in it, which I really like. And we just put it in nice big chunks, almost kind of like meatballs. And we're just gonna let that cook for about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm just gonna grab those tomatoes that we crushed, dump them in gently. Then we're gonna wanna get a couple tablespoons of water, just kind of swirl it around in our bowl like that, just to get the last bits of tomato out. Now these couple tablespoons of water are also going to count for the evaporation that occurs during our cooking process. So what we're going to want to do, give that a nice light little stir just so everything's combined. Get the lid on it, turn it down, and let it cook. So it's been cooking for about 45 minutes now. You want to see something just like that. So this is actually perfect where we're at right now, but I'd like to reduce it some more, so we're going to cook it for another ½ hour without the lid on. 30 minutes have gone by. Our sauce is nice, beautiful, reduced, a little bit thicker. If you'd like, at this point, you can cool it and use it at a later date, or we can get to plating our final dish. We're going to start by grating about 1/3 cup of Parmigiano Reggiano. And this dish is going to be for 2 people, maybe 3, depending on how hungry you guys are. Let's get a pot of heavily salted water. I use a tablespoon of salt per gallon and put in 1/4 pound of pasta. Cook it for 9 minutes. While the pasta is cooking, we can heat up our pork sugo. I have previously cooled mine. If you have not, this process will take much less time, obviously. Add a couple tablespoons of butter into your pan and break up those big chunks of pork sausage. I like to do this after we've cooked the sauce so the meat doesn't dry out. So we'll end up with some bite-sized pieces of the pork sausage, like so. We'll let it reduce a little, and we're going to add a tablespoon of chopped Italian parsley. So we've got our sauce reduced, our butter has been melted, our pasta is done cooking. Now we're going to combine the two. Don't throw out the pasta water yet because we might need it to thicken up the sauce a little bit. Give it a good stir, combine everything. Make sure all the sauce gets in all the nooks and crannies of the pasta. Everything's thoroughly coated. Then we're going to come in with our cheese. This will help thicken it up. This is usually the point where I add a little bit of that pasta water as well. In this case, it looks good. Give it a nice stir once again. Now we can start plating it. This is something I learned in an Italian kitchen. Put a little bit of cheese on the bottom of the plate before you plate the pasta, just a little bit. This will help thicken the sauce and make sure the last bites are nice and salty once the pasta's cooled a little bit and you're almost done eating. When you're plating, you want to make sure everything's nice and thoroughly combined. The sausage is scattered throughout the pasta. Everything is mixed up thoroughly. And you want to give it some height. Focus on a nice pile of the pasta as opposed to just laying it flat. Just going to get our last few spoonfuls on there. Again, make sure that pork is kind of scattered throughout. I'm obviously using a small spoon, which you don't have to do if you don't want to look like an idiot the way I am in front of all of you. See, I'm a pro. All right, come by with a little bit of your Reggiano cheese if you'd like. Sprinkle it on top. I like to do this fresh, right over the pasta, like so. A little bit more of that chopped Italian parsley. Give it some color, and also parsley adds a lot of flavor in this case. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I prefer Corto brand. It's my favorite on the planet, and it's right here in California. And there you have it. Gemelli pasta with pork sugo.